Hello, welcome to another episode of Arthritis and You, A Joint Journey. Today, we've got something special lined up, so buckle up because it's time for the deep dive. Let's give a warm welcome to our hosts, Arthur and Sarah.
All right, so you know how sometimes your knees get a little creaky
Right.
or maybe your hips feel a little stiff? Well, a lot of people turn to these supplements, glucosamine and chondroitin,
Right.
to help with joint health, especially if they have osteoarthritis.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into the science behind these supplements.
Absolutely.
We're going to figure out if they really work or if it's all just hype.
Exactly.
And we're using some great information from Alberta Rheumatology, both their YouTube channel and their website.
Great resources.
Yeah.
Very reliable.
Let's break it down. So first off, what exactly are glucosamine and chondroitin? I mean, I've heard of them, but I couldn't tell you what they actually do.
Well, glucosamine, it's an amino sugar. It's like the building block for all sorts of molecules in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, it's found naturally in our cartilage,
Okay.
but also in
Cartilage.
seashells.
Seashells, what?
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, nature's full of surprises.
It is.
Now, chondroitin, that's a component of cartilage itself. It's part of that cushioning in our joints that helps absorb shock and keeps everything moving smoothly.
Okay, so they're both involved in our joints, but in different ways. Got it.
Exactly.
Now, how are they supposed to work? What's the theory behind taking them as supplements for joint health?
So the idea is that as we get older, or if we have a condition like osteoarthritis, our cartilage starts to break down.
Right.
Like, the wear and tear on a car
I feel that.
and glucosamine, it might provide those raw materials to actually rebuild that cartilage.
So it's like giving your body the supplies it needs to fix the damage.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like supplying bricks to repair a crumbling wall.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
And there's even some evidence that glucosamine might reduce inflammation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it could potentially help with both rebuilding and pain relief.
Okay, so it's a 2-for-1?
Yeah, potentially.
What about chondroitin? How's that supposed to help?
Chondroitin, it works a little differently. It's thought to act as a barrier, slowing down the breakdown of cartilage.
Oh, so it's more about protecting what's already there.
Yeah, like reinforcing that wall to prevent further damage.
So 2 different strategies for the same problem.
Exactly.
This all sounds very promising, but does the science back it up? Do these supplements actually work? Or is it all just wishful thinking?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
Let's start with glucosamine sulfate. That's the form that's been studied the most.
Okay.
And there are some studies, especially for knee osteoarthritis,
Mm-hmm.
that have shown it can reduce pain and improve function. Like one study found that people taking 1,500 milligrams daily for 3 months
Okay.
had significant improvement in their pain scores.
All right, so there's some positive evidence there,
There is.
but I have a feeling it's not that straightforward.
Right. There's always a but.
There's always a but.
And the but here is that there was a really big study called the GAI-8 study.
Okay.
And they found that glucosamine didn't really reduce pain any more than a placebo.
Oh, wow. So that kind of contradicts the earlier findings.
It does, and that's the frustrating thing about research sometimes. You get these mixed results.
Right, and this was a big study, you said.
Huge study.
Yeah.
And, they even looked at the combination of glucosamine and chondroitin together in that study.
Interesting.
And unfortunately, the results for the combo weren't that great either.
So it's not a slam dunk either way.
It's not.
We've got some studies showing promise, some showing no effect.
Yeah,
It's confusing.
it is. And it leaves us with a lot of questions. Could it be the dosage? Could it be the specific type of glucosamine they used? Could it be individual differences in how people respond?
Right.
We just don't have all the answers yet.
So more research is needed, basically.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, what about chondroitin? Does it have a better track record than glucosamine?
Well, chondroitin's story is kind of similar to glucosamine's, actually. There are some studies that have shown it can help with osteoarthritis pain,
Okay.
especially in the knees.
Mm.
But then again, other studies haven't found much benefit at all.
So it's that same mix of good and bad results.
Yeah, exactly. The typical dosage studied was around 800 to 1,200 milligrams daily,
Okay.
usually split into 2 or 3 doses.
Got it. So no clear winner there either.
Not really, no.
Okay.
But there is one type of chondroitin that I think is worth mentioning.
Oh, tell me more.
It's called chondrosulf.
Chondroitin.
Then this is where things get a little more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's a highly purified form of chondroitin, and there's some evidence suggesting it might be more effective than the standard chondroitin sulfate.
Really?
Yeah, like there's one study that looked at hand osteoarthritis,
Okay.
and they found that chondrosulf actually had a positive impact on pain and function.
Wow. So that's pretty promising.
It is. And there's another trial called the STHOP trial.
Okay.
And that one showed that chondrosulf could actually slow down the narrowing of the joint space.
Which is the big deal, right?
Yeah, that's a key indicator of osteoarthritis progression.
So this specific type of chondroitin, chondrosulf, seems like it might have some real potential.
I think so, but of course, we always have to be cautious.
Right, because there are probably some caveats here.
There are. First off, the research on chondrosulf is still pretty limited.
Yeah.
So we definitely need more studies to confirm these findings.
Right.
And second, it's mainly available in Canada
Oh, okay.
and usually has to be ordered online.
So not the easiest to get your hands on.
Not necessarily.
So potentially promising, but needs more research and isn't widely available. Sounds familiar.
It's a recurring theme, right?
It is. Now, I'm guessing a lot of people are wondering about taking glucosamine and chondroitin together.
Oh, for sure.
Like, does that combo offer any advantages?
It's a great question. And, researchers have been looking into that too. The idea is that if they work through different mechanisms, maybe combining them could lead to a synergistic effect.
Right, like they might boost each other's effectiveness.
Exactly. But, and you probably won't be surprised to hear this, the research on combination products is mixed too.
Ugh, not that mixed bag of results again.
I know, it's frustrating.
So what have the studies shown about taking them together?
Well, there was one study, the MOVE-EASE action, where they compared a glucosamine-chondroitin combo to celecoxib.
Celecoxib.
It's a commonly prescribed painkiller.
Oh, okay.
And get this, they found that the combo was actually similar to celecoxib in reducing knee osteoarthritis pain over 6 months.
Wow, so potentially as effective as a medication.
That's what the study suggests, yeah.
That's pretty impressive. But I'm waiting for the but.
You know me too well.
I do.
There is a
Yeah,
but.
okay.
Another really good study found that the placebo group actually had more pain reduction than the glucosamine-chondroitin group.
Wait, the placebo was better.
I know, it sounds crazy, right?
It does. How is that even possible?
It's really surprising, and we don't fully understand why. But one thought is that it might have something to do with the different formulations used in these studies. Remember how we talked about glucosamine sulfate versus other types?
Right.
Well, it's the same with chondroitin. Different formulations might have different levels of purity, or they might be absorbed differently by the body.
So you're saying the way these supplements are made could drastically change how effective they are?
Exactly, and that just adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
It really does. So basically, we need more standardized research to really figure this all out.
We absolutely do.
Okay, so after all this, where does that leave us? Is the evidence for glucosamine and chondroitin, both individually and combined, just inconclusive?
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay.
And it's also worth noting that current clinical guidelines don't actually recommend glucosamine, chondroitin, or the combination for osteoarthritis.
So they're not officially endorsed, but people still use them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people find them helpful.
So what's the advice for someone who's considering trying these supplements? What should they do?
I think the most important thing is to talk to your doctor. Have an open conversation about it. Discuss your individual situation. Because while the evidence might be mixed, we do know that both glucosamine and chondroitin are generally considered safe.
Okay, that's good.
And they're usually well tolerated. So for some people, especially those with, mild to moderate knee osteoarthritis,
Yeah.
who haven't found relief with other things,
Right.
it might be worth trying them for a short period, like 4 to 6 weeks.
Under their doctor's supervision, of course.
Of course. Always under medical supervision.
So no harm in having that conversation and seeing what your doctor recommends.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, we've talked a lot about the potential benefits,
Right.
but let's not forget about the other side of the coin, safety.
Absolutely.
Because even if a supplement might help, we need to know if there are any risks involved, right?
Definitely. And that's something we'll dive into in the next part of this deep dive.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to talk about potential side effects and interactions, so don't go anywhere.
That's going to be good.
It is. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the not-so-fun part,
Yeah.
safety.
Right.
Because let's be real, even if something might help your achy joints,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to end up with a whole bunch of other problems.
Absolutely not.
So let's talk side effects.
Okay.
What kind of things might someone experience if they're taking glucosamine?
Well, the good news is
Okay.
both glucosamine and chondroitin are generally considered safe,
Okay, good.
especially when you take them as directed.
Right.
But like anything, like any substance you put in your body, there can be side effects.
Of course.
And it's important to be aware of those.
So with glucosamine, what are we talking about?
Well, the most common side effects you see with glucosamine, they tend to be pretty mild,
Okay.
and they usually involve the stomach.
Oh, like what?
Things like nausea, heartburn,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some diarrhea, constipation, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Not fun.
Not fun, no, but usually not serious either.
Okay. That's good, at least. Anything else people should watch out for?
Yeah, so less commonly, people might experience drowsiness
Okay.
or headaches, sometimes skin reactions,
Interesting.
but, everyone's different.
Of course.
What bothers one person might not bother another at all.
Right. Totally. So what about chondroitin? Are the side effects pretty much the same?
Pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Could get those same kind of stomach issues,
Ah.
nausea, diarrhea, that sort of thing.
But I think you mentioned there might be some less common side effects with chondroitin
I do.
that are a little more surprising.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so some people have reported swelling,
Swelling where?
like in their eyelids or their lower limbs.
Interesting.
And believe it or not, hair loss has also been reported as a side
Ah.
effect.
What? Hair loss.
I know, it's not what you expect, right?
Not at all. From a joint supplement.
It's pretty rare, though.
Okay, well, that's good. But still, it just goes to show, even supplements that seem harmless can have weird side effects.
Absolutely. That's why it's always, always important to do your research. Talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement.
Yes. Even if it's natural.
Exactly.
Even if it's something you can just buy off the shelf.
Doesn't matter.
Be informed.
Exactly.
Okay, now, are there any specific interactions we should be really careful about with either glucosamine or chondroitin?
Yeah, there's one really important one to mention.
Okay.
Both glucosamine and chondroitin can interact with blood thinners.
Oh, okay, that sounds serious.
Yeah, it can increase the risk of bleeding and bruising.
Okay, so we're talking about medications like warfarin.
Yeah, warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, any medication that affects how your blood clots, basically.
Got it. And why does this interaction happen? Like, what's the mechanism there?
So both glucosamine and chondroitin,
Mm-hmm.
they can actually affect the way your blood clots, too.
Interesting.
And since blood thinners work in a similar way,
Right.
taking these supplements together could basically amplify those effects.
So you're more likely to bleed or bruise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're taking any medication that affects blood clotting, definitely talk to your doctor before taking glucosamine or chondroitin.
Don't even risk it.
Don't even risk it.
Mm-hmm.
Your doctor can assess your individual situation, see what medications you're on,
Mm-hmm.
and help you make an informed decision.
Right, because everyone's different. Everyone's situation is unique.
Exactly.
So yeah, talk to your doctor, get personalized advice, all that good stuff.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, so to wrap up this safety segment,
Okay.
any final thoughts for our listeners before we move on?
I think the main thing to remember is that while glucosamine and chondroitin are generally well tolerated,
Yeah.
there are potential risks,
Right.
especially if you're on certain medications.
Yep.
So don't self-prescribe.
Please don't.
Talk to your doctor,
Yeah.
get their advice,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you're making choices that are right for you.
Okay. Safety first.
Always.
All right, now let's move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll put all this information together
Yeah.
and leave our listeners with some food for thought.
I like it.
Okay, so we've talked about what glucosamine and chondroitin are,
Right.
how they're supposed to work, the research, the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've covered a lot,
We have.
and I'm sure some people might be feeling a little, I don't know, overloaded.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is, right.
Especially because, the research is kind of all over the place.
It is. It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
can we just try to zoom out a little
Yeah.
and make sense of it all? Like, what are the big takeaways?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that the science on glucosamine and chondroitin, at least for osteoarthritis, it's just not settled yet.
Yeah,
We've seen some hints that they might be helpful,
right.
but the evidence isn't strong enough to say for sure.
So it's not like a guaranteed fix.
No, definitely not a magic bullet.
And ultimately, the decision of whether or not to try these supplements,
Mhm.
it's a personal one,
It is.
and it's a conversation you should have with your doctor.
And-
So I guess the message is proceed with caution.
Yeah. Proceed with caution. Don't believe the hype.
Right. Manage your expectations.
Exactly. I mean, they might be worth exploring for some people,
Okay.
especially those with like mild to moderate knee osteoarthritis who haven't found relief with other things.
Yeah.
But you really got to be realistic about what these supplements can and cannot do.
Right. And I'm guessing there are some people who should probably just avoid them altogether.
Oh, absolutely. Like anyone with a shellfish allergy.
Oh, right. Because glucosamine often comes from shellfish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, anyone taking blood thinners or other medications, they should definitely check with their doctor first.
Okay, so talk to your doctor, get personalized advice, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
Now, you've been researching this for a while.
I have.
What are some of the things that, I don't know, really stand out to you about glucosamine and chondroitin? Like, what are you most curious about?
Honestly, I'm really intrigued by the whole chondrosulf thing.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Like, the fact that this specific formulation has shown such promising results, it makes me think there's something special about the purity or how well it's absorbed.
Right, like maybe not all chondroitin is created equal.
Exactly. And I think we need way more research in that area.
Yeah, to figure out what makes chondrosulf different.
Exactly.
It's like, you know how some people swear by organic produce?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same with supplements.
Maybe. The source and the processing could make a huge difference.
It could. I mean, another thing I've always wondered about is
Yeah.
could we ever get to a point where we know exactly who will benefit from these supplements and who won't?
Oh, that's a great question. Like, could there be a genetic test or something?
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it? I mean, it's not impossible.
Right, with all the advances in personalized medicine.
Exactly.
It would be so cool to know if glucosamine or chondroitin was actually going to work for you before you even tried it.
It would take all the guesswork out of it.
Totally. So for those of us who are, interested in all this and want to learn more, what should we be doing?
Stay curious. That's the most important thing.
Stay curious.
Yeah. Read up on the latest research. Don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. Be proactive about your health.
I like it.
Take charge.
Take charge. Okay, well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into glucosamine and chondroitin.
I think so.
We've covered a lot.
We did.
But remember, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. There's always more to learn.
Always more to learn.
Always.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep taking care of yourselves.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been another episode of Arthritis and You, A Joint Journey, brought to you by the Rheum team from albertarheumatology.com, your trusted evidence-based suite of resources available 24/7. Straight from Alberta, but for folks around the world. Our hosts today, Arthritis and Sarah Upis, technical producer, John Eifel, and our executive producer, Stephen Cates. While we work hard to maintain the accuracy of our information, we accept no legal responsibility for any errors or omissions. Remember, always check with your own physician first. Join us next time for another Deep Dive.